I stood alone on the patio having this fierce argument. An argument that just seemed to go on and on, saying, no, I don't have to do it that way. I don't have to do it that way. And finally, I gave up fighting with myself because I was alone on the patio. And I decided to take the advice of the people I had put myself into the care of. See, I was at a rehab because my life was unmanageable. My life was falling apart. And I was still arguing about what I should and shouldn't do. I had no agency in my life. And so I was fighting for one little desperate cling to something that I didn't have to give up alcohol, that cocaine was my problem. I just couldn't touch cocaine. I've shared with you before, I am in recovery. But at that moment, I was not. I was still battling the voices inside and outside me. And I wasn't committed to that being the moment. But then there was a moment of clarity in the middle of that argument. I heard a voice. It was loud. It was clear. It was my voice. And it said, Ken, you have been trying this your way for years. Why don't you give this a try? And as I went to argue, I realized the truth of that statement. And I turned around, I went inside, I started doing the work. On May 1st, that will be 21 years ago. That moment exists within me right here now today, because this is still the moment where I make that choice to stand for sobriety, for clarity, and everything that has transpired in my life since that moment is a gift of that one moment of clarity. And sometimes we need to wake up, sometimes we need some major trauma in our lives to hear that, to understand the importance of it. And sometimes they come in really quiet and really subtle, but they're just as important, that we stand for something larger than we've been living for in the past. We stand for something more important that we have never glimpsed, we could have no clue about. And we release the fear. The fear, if I don't do it my way, what's going to happen? If I turn my life over to this other idea that I've never lived in before, what's it going to look like, feel like, be like? Will I, the small me, the Ken, still survive? Well, obviously, I'm still here, and I actually have found more expression today than I have ever known before. More true expression. More strength and wisdom have come to me by admitting what I can't do and stepping into what is mine. That fear, though, is pervasive. And the world is transformed, though, by people who look and stand for possibility, right? At that moment, I couldn't be it, but there were people around me who were screaming and yelling that there is more for you. There is more for you than you understand. Lynn Twist, in her book that we've been studying, Living a Committed Life, irony just everywhere, that when I committed to doing the work, my life got better. Those who stand for that take the long view. And I want to bring this conversation, the reason I have this quote up for us today, is I want us to take the long view, because it's not only personal lives, it's not only our individual lives that need to be transformed, it's the planet, right, folks? It's the planet. It has been a devastating week if you're listening to the news reports of the war in the Gaza Strip and in Israel and in the disaster that is unfolding right now. And when we think that we have the answer, or if only one person would do one thing, we are stuck in the duality, in this idea of right and wrong, as I read about at the beginning, right? This idea of right and wrong, good and bad. If you can stand for the possibility that this might be happening for a solution, painful and outrageous as it is, if we all wake up and say, this situation is crying for a bigger solution. This situation is crying for a solution that has never existed before. And we get to hold the possibility of what it could be. That all people on this planet get to live in autonomy, get to live without fear of being attacked, threatened, terrorized, bombed, and minimalized, and marginalized, and derided. That the Israelis and the Palestinians, the people of color all across the world, the women across the world get to live in a place and a society that honors, supports them, and encourages them. Because when we do this, folks, when we think outside of the current parameters, we will find a solution. Like inside, like outside. When we are fixed in ourselves, and we think there's only one right way to do something, there is only one answer, we get stuck. But the possibilities in the world open us to what could be the solution to this. What could be? And can we bring our consciousness, our energy, rather than to attacking either side, to coming to the position and the activeness of knowing that the solution exists not within them, but within all of us. Not within right and wrong, Palestinian, Israeli, Russian, Ukrainian, black, white, male, female. The solution exists within our humanity and in our divinity. The solution exists in the oneness that we talked about last week in the color purple, understanding that God is not out there doing this, that God is right here within us and everything around us. The Transcendentalist movement was the first to acknowledge that God isn't up in the sky, God is in the chair, the leaves, the plants, the water, the you, the me. God is in the midst of that situation in Israel and Palestine. Can we even imagine that God is at work in that situation? It seems impossible when you listen to the news and fear overtakes you going, oh my God, those people are going to starve to death. Those people are being slaughtered. These people have experienced this atrocity. But Eleanor Roosevelt told us a long time ago, courage is more exhilarating than fear. And in the long run, it's easier. So we have to fight this apathy that's taking over us, going, what can we do? Well, I'm only one person. I'm over here in the United States. How am I going to solve this problem? Well, we solve the problem by not contributing to it, by calling one side right or wrong. We solve the problem by standing for something larger than ourselves, for equality, equity for everyone on the planet. We state it in every word and in our actions and where we put our money and how we spend our money. Jane Goodall, another great woman of this planet, and it said that the greatest danger to our future is apathy. Right? And let's talk about Jane for a moment, because I think she's a great example of this. So Jane Goodall was born in the 30s, right? She's in her 80s now. She was born in the 1930s. And in England, when she was in her 50s, she wrote to Louis Leakey, wanting to study animals and wanting to study in Africa. She hadn't gone to college yet, but he answered her request and brought her down. Her family sent her down to Africa, and she started studying primates with Louis Leakey. She had no education. She hadn't gone to college, but she started doing the work. She then applied to Cambridge for a PhD program in anthropology. And she was accepted, one of the only 8 people on the planet who have ever been accepted to a PhD program without even having a bachelor's degree, right? So don't tell me that things aren't possible in the world, even though, the rules say you can't do it that way. She went on at Cambridge to earn her PhD and her bachelor's, and she has changed the world. We have a different understanding of chimpanzees and about the relationship of animals to humans and our connection to the divine and to all that there is because of Jane Goodall. And she continues to this day. Out of the 20-something books she's written, 5 of them have the word hope in them. 5 of them, of the 20 books she's written, have talked to us about how we have to hope for a better future. Ordinary people become extraordinary when they stand for a purpose larger than themselves. Jane Goodall is one of those people who have stood for something larger than herself. And she started with a desire, but moved into something that was great. That moment I shared with you from 21 years ago, I was not interested in what was best for the world. I was in survival mode for me. But what had happened is that I was able to shift. I was able to change, and then I rededicated my life to something larger. That part was always there. I was drawn to it since a little child, but my life had gotten so small, I couldn't see it before. Now, today, what I'm offering all of us is that no matter we're in our 20s, starting our career, or 80s like Jane, still continuing our careers, our divine purpose here on earth, what is it that we want to do? What is it that we want to do? There is always challenges. There are always challenges. There are always changes. Life is constantly about change. And there will always need to be course corrections. But those course corrections are not mistakes. They're just learning curves where we pick up knowledge and experience and then just continue on down the road. I like to think of it as the river running towards the ocean, right? If it's a mountain in the way, it doesn't necessarily go through it. It takes the course of least resistance. So that sometimes takes it on a winding path. Does that make sense for your life? Have you been on a winding path through all kinds of things that are flavoring who you are today? The world needs us. 21 years ago, I didn't understand that. And it's humbling. The world needs us to participate in this. Fully present, fully aware, fully interested in others, asking the curious questions, understanding that things may not work out as we think they should, but that they always work out for the best, for the highest, when we allow it. When we allow our own personal needs to shift, trusting, and there's the key, trusting that our needs will always be met and that all are being met, that we can work for something larger than ourselves. So I ask you right now at home and here in the room, do you have enough air to breathe right now? Have you had enough food today? If not, there's tons downstairs. And if you're at home, I hope that you have a stocked full fridge. But there are people on this planet who don't have that right here and right now. And it's not because there's not enough. We live in an infinite universe, and there is more enough supply here on earth to take care of all human need. Period. Are we committed to doing that, folks? Are we committed to saying, yes, that's what should happen here in this country and around the world? But let's just take here in this country. There should be no one in this country who doesn't get to go to the doctor. I'll say it again, and it's radical, right? I can hear the internet going crazy. There is no one here in this country, whether they're here documented or not. There's no illegals. There are only documented and undocumented people. There are no persons in this country who should not have access to medical care. We need to make it a priority. For as we take care of each other, we take care of ourselves. Do I need to quote scripture? Because I will. If you make me pull Jesus out of my back pocket, I'll pull Jesus out of the back pocket. That which you do to the least of us, you do unto me. Right? So that scriptural reference that is put in the mouth of Jesus by the gospel writers is a truth that was true in Palestine 2,000 years ago. It is just as true here today. So that which we do to the least of us, we do unto Spirit, unto God, unto each and every one of us. This is the moment. Damn all the odds. We must do something every day to make this world a better place. Whether it is loving the unlovable, whether it is loving what you think isn't right, it is whether you can engage with something that is bigger than you, that stretches you beyond your capacity to understand. I know I have taken this journey because it challenges me daily, weekly, and annually to be better than I was the day before. Some days I don't make it. Some days I can look back and go, oh, okay, that was good. And always it is better than 21 years ago. Always it is better than it was before. And that's more important. That is infinitely more important that we take the next step on this long and winding road. There's a futurist who writes, his name is Alex Steffen. He does TED Talks. He has several books out. It's all about the future of the planet. And he writes, optimism is a political act. Those who benefit from the status quo are perfectly happy for us to think nothing is going to get any better. In fact, these days, cynicism is obedience. So we're going to be radically positive. We're going to know that a solution to the world's problems of hunger, of war, of genocide, of poverty, of racism, bigotry, misogyny, all have a solution. And the solution exists where, folks? In us and in everything around us, because Spirit is at work. Let us all commit to taking this step, taking this action, and being a force for change in the world. You can do it whatever your job is. You can do it if you don't have a job. You can do it because you choose to be an awake, alive participant in this journey of life that we've all come here to know. Let's take that to our time of meditation.